Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode of The Dialogue. I am always so excited to get on once I get any type of fresh revelation to share it, to encourage and inspire people to continue and pursue, first of all, their walk with God. Secondly, the pursuit and discovery of their purpose. More importantly, their identity as well as healing. So today, this new episode definitely comes with understanding of a transition. So this is going to be for people that have been in a transition. Either you may be going into one, you're in the middle of one, or you're coming out of it. So before we get started, you know that our mantra on this show is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. I am really finding it that there are so many things that a person can do to attempt to heal their soul. However, when a soul is broken, the only thing that can heal it would be truth and light. And with that being said, that means ultimately you are not able or going to be able to put substances such as drugs, alcohol, sexual activity, food, any of smoking, overspending, gambling, any of these things into the place of where your soul is hurt or broken. It's like a void. And I actually was just talking to a patient about this the other day. When you have a void in your soul, it's a hole. It's like a vortex. And when it's not healed, ultimately a vortex just goes like a tornado and it spins and spins and spins and it sucks things up. The ironic part about a hole in a person's soul is that oftentimes, just like what it is, if it's abandonment, rejection, fear, anxiety, whatever these feelings or issues may be, maybe you've been molested, maybe you've been raped, whatever it is, it's going to suck those things into the hole, making the hole bigger, making the void bigger and deeper. Until you come to the place where you understand these things that I'm putting in this place to fill it, heal it, it's not working. And you have to get to the root of what the problem is. Once you get to the root of what the problem is, the encavement or the hole starts to come up and heal itself as you progress with truth and light. And then you have foundation and you're no longer broken. So if you need more elaboration on that, continue to listen to the podcast. It's going to be new content in regards to the appropriate ways to heal and experience authentic restoration in your life. So I had to segue and say that because it is definitely a part of today's content. So, I have recently, most of you don't know that I am a mental health specialist. And so I talk to people all the time that are impacted by mental health, trauma, issues, adversity. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mental health challenges, all stemming around the same thing. Something is going on in their mind, like a block or a roadblock that they can't get past, they can't come over, and it's preventing them from living their optimal, abundant, maximum life. It's preventing them from experiencing happiness and joy and peace. Mental roadblocks are challenges that cause difficulty and adversity. And it even is so much to the point where if you can think about a situation over and over, it'll actually take you back and you'll feel like you're reliving that thing even though the events of it have ended. This is how powerful the mind is. And so I've been talking to a lot of patients about their past. Some of them impacted by the most tumultuous things You would never know it because many of them have stated, this is the first time I've ever told anybody this. I've never told anybody this. I never even went back to the person that did this to me and told them that what they did hurt me, how it impacted me, how it made me feel. And so many of them, for the first time in their lives, are starting to understand and recognize that whatever took place or whatever happened to them severely impacted them, that they're broken and damaged in those particular areas. And so they have a void. They have a darkness in them. Because anytime you experience anything adverse, trying, difficult, or painful, that is what it does. It comes to chip away at who you are and break you to your core. And so I've been talking to a lot of these people, and we're going back to when they were 3 and 5 and 7 and 12. And they're bringing up these situations that have happened to them that's affecting them now when they're 28, 35, 40. But it didn't just start impacting them when they were 28, 35, or 40. They saw it in their 20s. They saw it in their teens. They saw it in their preteens. It was always there. It was just that a lot of times when you're a young person, it can be very difficult to process pain, especially as a child. So let's segue. Say something happened to you when you were 9 years old. But for many of us, we do not remember a lot of our childhood. We may remember specific events, and some of those events were imprinted on our mind because they were so painful. And then some of them so good. Like I have memories of riding my first bike and things like that. But not my whole entire childhood do I recall. But the brain in its power holds onto memories in our subconscious. No, you may not remember them just outrightly, but the subconscious mind, like a sponge, soaks up events and circumstances and things and holds them there. And then as you get older and grow up, your DNA, the very core of who you are starts to repeat those circumstances through your responses, your emotions, reactions, sometimes in your relationships. Like you can tell sometimes how a woman feels about herself by the type of man she dates and the quality of the relationship. Oh man, this is going a whole different way. Okay, let me take it deeper. A woman who is confident, she may be in a relationship, but if that relationship turns toxic or unhealthy, she's going to walk away. Or a woman that is confident doesn't actually need to be in a relationship to feel that she's significant or important. On the contrary, a woman who does not value herself and does not love herself will find herself in a toxic, unhealthy, mentally, verbally, sometimes sexually abusive relationship and feel as though if she walks away, that's all there is to life. This is what brokenness does. It puts us in circumstances that ultimately either deteriorates you, destroy you, or build you up. And all of these come from things that happen in our life. It's like a scripture, and it says, guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. And so for some of us, when we got older, we can remember things that happened to us, like I said, in our teens. You know, the bad relationship in high school, the different things and mistakes and decisions that you made. But what if those decisions and things didn't just start from your teens? What if it was based on your subconscious memories and things that happened to you in your childhood that you don't even recall. However, but God in his sovereignty and his ability, because he has formed the man, he has formed the mind, he's formed the heart and every other organ in your body, including your blood and everything that you need to function, knows your total makeup in your being. Because he said, before you was in your mother's womb, I formed you. Ironically enough, circumstances, situations, and things of adversity come to break the form of what God created you to be, or who he created you to be. And so, if you're living out your life right now, and it seems like it's a pattern of the same thing, is it because it's not actually about what's happening right now, but something that took place in your past that created a trajectory of the people you would deal with, the environment you would live in, the finances that you would make, or the boundary or limit? What if what happened in your life to you impacted you so adversely that it created a threshold to where you can't cross over to the other side and you don't even remember the situation? You find yourself in a relationship, but you always end up with a person that cheats, so it never goes further to marriage. You find yourself at a job and you're supposed to be a supervisor right now, but you keep running into people that are intimidated of you, so they conspire to get you fired. So you work that job for a little bit, you make a little bit of money, you save it, and then boom, you have to quit or find another job for the sake of mental peace. Or you can't hold on to any friendships or relationships. Or you start the diet, start eating healthy, and then you stop. Or you start school, start the business, go for a couple months on different intervals and different times, and you stop. Or you keep running into the same woman over and over and over that seems as though they're sane, and then shortly down the line, you find out that they're insane. Childhood trauma, childhood issues of how we feel about ourselves, how others have made us feel about ourselves, all those things get imprinted on the mind. And what happens is that when they imprint, they dwell within and create a narrative and a silent story that we tell ourselves over and over and over. And it becomes the book of our life that other people read, because you can see it. Now, this is what's so ironic, right? So people look at people and they judge the outside of the person. Like, they see a woman that's overweight, they're like, okay, she just eats too much. But they don't know that when she was a little girl, they never had food in the house. So she eats and overly eats because it's a security for her to eat. People judge. So they see a woman that moves around a lot and moves to different cities and states, and they're like, okay, something's wrong with her. Something's off. Something's imbalanced. But they don't know that when she was a kid, she saw her dad beating on her mother. And so she would run in fear. And so that fear is still controlling her even as an adult. They see a woman in a marriage and she's not happy at all, like totally miserable, making everybody else miserable. And their whole notion is, okay, just leave. But she has a fear of survival. She's afraid that the marriage that was security for her at one point in time, if it ends, she will no longer be secure. Because when her dad walked out on her, her and her mother and other family members struggled. And so she's having a hard time letting go. She's having a hard time moving on. She's having a hard time moving forward because she's afraid. These circumstances and situations that come to a person in their present hour are not always about what's taking place at that moment in that time. Sometimes, and very often, circumstances that suddenly arise are because of things that took place in a person's childhood or life in general. And it is impacting the way that they think, their perception, their comprehension of what's really taking place now. So what if people could get to the root of what's causing them to respond the way that they do? Shed light on it, truth, let God heal it so that they can have a different trajectory. And so you go from the beginning, the circumstance that took place that altered the complete makeup of a person. You get to the middle where it's just fumbling and mistake and bad decisions. And then you get to the end of, oh, that's why. Well, that's what we would call an epiphany. When you just suddenly have this awakening like, oh my. So you mean to tell me that which happened to me 20 years ago is affecting me today? You mean to tell me that when I was in elementary school and people called me ugly or made me feel less than, that's affecting me today? You mean to tell me that when I was a little girl and nobody listened to me, that's why I overtalk today? You mean to tell me that because I've always been around friends that are jealous, this is why I don't feel comfortable around women and don't have any female friends? Because jealous people normally have a way of passively or aggressively tearing you down, that I don't trust myself in the hands of a woman anymore? Epiphanies, which I would call revelation from God, are crucial and essential to us as human beings because we do not recall everything. Say, for instance, if we were able to recall every situation, I believe it would be like a traffic jam in a person's mind in LA at 4:30 and 5 o'clock. That would shut a person down. They wouldn't function properly. And so I personally believe, and this is the purpose for this podcast, that when God decides that you have gone long enough in the way that you are, and He's so tender and merciful and loving that many of us, He understands that we're not like the way we are because we want to be. Something happened that started it. But the beautiful part is that God wants to end it. And so oftentimes, God in His majesty will allow situations to come upon us. And sometimes it's so hard and difficult because He's trying to press out how you really feel. He's trying to open you up. He's trying to go inside and do surgery on the parts that have been wounded. And so He'll use situations that we can't control to bring out how we really feel and how we really think and process. And oftentimes those situations will sit you down. They will humble you. And then what happens is that in that humbling, you have no choice but to go to God and ask him, how did I get here? Why am I here? What's going on? Like, this is out of my control. I can't do anything. I don't understand. And when you humble yourself and lower yourself down, because the circumstances a lot of times will humble you and put you down like a dog that's sick, God in his infinite beauty, wisdom, majesty, and just splendor will come down with you and start to show you things. And he'll show you, you didn't end up in this situation just because it started years ago or 10 years ago. You ended up in this situation because something happened to you when you were a kid. When you were a little boy and you didn't feel loved. And so the little bit of love that you got felt astronomical, that you pledged your loyalty to somebody who's not loyal to you. And he will sit you down and he will humble you. And it'll feel like you're just breaking inside, like everything is just breaking inside. Now, there's different ways that God can do this. For some people that, when they continue to run and run and run, God has so many ways of doing it. Like, he can tell a person, okay, quit a job. He can tell a person, walk away from this friendship or relationship. He can tell a person, you need to consecrate and spend time to yourself. For some people, I've heard people say that they got sick, like really sick. And when they got sick, and all these times that they were low and humbled themselves, this is when they were able to hear from God. And once they heard from God or received the epiphany or God brought light to their situation, it was like, this makes perfect sense. I'm not supposed to be in this relationship. I'm not supposed to be around these people. I'm not supposed to be doing some of the things that I'm doing right now. But it is not until God goes in, or let's segue, he can use a person. He can use a person to talk to you. God can use a TV show to talk to you. He can use a billboard, a license plate. He can use dreams. He can give you visions. Beautifully enough, he can also use scripture. But it's whatever he decides to use to talk to you. And it's for the purpose of comfort. Because if he's ever going to talk to you about you, it's going to be for the purpose of resolving something that's probably plagued you since you were a little kid. So, this podcast today is for those of you that have been severely impacted by a circumstance or situation. You have gone through hell and high waters, circumstances that have been very trying and difficult, and you are in a transition. You find yourself at the end discovering why you feel the way you feel, why you think the way you think, why you behave the way that you behave, why you talk the way that you talk, why do you treat people the way that you do. Some people can do it, don't even understand that they treat people how they were treated. They make people feel insignificant. It's because they feel insignificant. They bring fear into people's lives. It's because they have fear in theirs. And so, with all truth and honesty, when God starts you on something that is very imperative and important, he will take you through the middle ground, which is the transition, but then he'll also bring you to the end of it. And when he shows you the epiphany, the end of it, that season, that cycle, that time is over. And then what he'll do is he will bring you into a new beginning and tell you, start again. Start again with the new perspective that I've given you, that you are loved, valued, significant, and important. Start again with the new perspective that I'm giving you, that I created you to not create destructive habits, thoughts, and words that are hurting and destroying other people. But I have created you to speak life and build people up and pray for them. Start again. Start the job again, but this time don't get wrapped up in other people's business. Start the job again, but don't get wrapped up in the fact that you think that this job is your source, because it's just a resource that I'm using to provide for you, because I am your ultimate source. God is your ultimate source. Start again. Receive the love that I have always wanted you to have, but you continue to run to people that were empty and void of true compassion and love and kindness. Start again now that you are healed and whole. Start again now that you have gone through the transition and you understand that a lot of things may not have been your fault, but because of the void and continuously getting hurt over and over again, you made bad decisions. But start again with the right decision and the right perspective. God is so beautiful because he does give second chances. Third, fourth, fifth, 100th chances. But he stays in the press with us until we can get it right. I mean, if you still have breath in your lungs and you are on this earth amongst the living, God still gives you time. Because he does not want to see you keep bumping your head and making mistakes and living beneath the standard that he has set for you, because that is what sin is. When we don't meet the mark, when we don't come up to the full potential of what God said we should be, who we should be. But God is so beautiful because he also understands how it got like that and why it's like that. And so he'll put you on a lifetime program of healing. He'll continue to be patient with you and show you and take you down and sit you down and help you, just to help you stand up and walk the right way. The most important part is that when God is showing you these things, the areas that he's not pleased with, that we confess it to him and tell him, Lord, I've sinned. I've fallen short. And I need you to help me meet your standard, because I'm your child and you love me and you've created me with greatness and royalty and majesty. And I deserve, and other people deserve, to see you displayed in the right way through me. And so I so appreciate these opportunities to share this revelation with you. And I hope that whatever happened to you in your life, you allow God to soothe it and to heal it and to restore you back to the person that he always knew that you were meant to be, because he created you to be that person even before the enemy set out on an all-out rampage to destroy who God wanted you to become. And with that in mind, let us start again. So thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of The Dialogue. Our mantra is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. If you know someone that this podcast or broadcast could be beneficial to help, please share this with them. Most people will come over to the other side of abundance and living better if they just had the wisdom and instruction and insight into their situations to make better decisions that will ultimately impact them for the better, but humankind as well. Thank you so much, everybody. We will be back with more content. I hope that you have a beautiful day filled with light and love, and make sure to share it with someone else. Goodbye, everybody.